Happy Thursday, Corinne from Mama's Little Lambs. This morning, I am going to be sharing with you 5 must-have read-alouds by subject. And I will be back with you to tell you what that subject is and the books I have chosen. Welcome back. Today we're going to be doing science. And I love science and my children love science, and we're doing some fun things right now with science. Some are space and space-related read-aloud books. And then I have a couple others that are not. And I am excited to share this with you, but first I want to let you know this is a collaboration. The host is Ingrid over at Mommy and Mia Homeschool Chronicles. She is awesome and amazing, and I'm always excited to share in on her collaborations. So we're going to get started this morning with science, and I will leave a playlist below of all the videos that have been done so far and the ones that will be coming up. And also it will have the names of the other wonderful ladies that are presenting some awesome videos, and you need to check those out. So thank you so much for joining in this morning, and I hope you like my choices. So the first one we're going to share is the Astronaut Academy. And I got this from Usborne. And it's really fun because it has stickers, it has a poster, it has a press-out model, and my little boy thinks he's an astronaut. He is going to be 4.5 soon, and he wanted this book. So it's just a really fun book for science. And because we're doing a unit study on space, this is absolutely perfect. In the contents, it has space pilot, space living, space engineer, space scientist, space gym, space explorers, and space goodies. And it says, welcome to the Academy. And it takes us through, and it tells us, congratulations, we are glad you're here, and we are going to learn some wonderful things and how to become a space cadet. It also has a space cadet ID. It's just so much fun. It talks about meeting the crew. Of course, if you're going to spend time with somebody on a rocket ship, you are going to want to meet the crew and know who they are and who you're going to be spending a lot of time with in a very small area. It talks about quick thinking, space pilot. It goes through and it talks about getting ready for the blast off and how there's a whole lot more from counting down from 10 to blast off. You have to first prepare many things. You have to count down, the clock starts, and the flight deck is inspected. The launch area is clean. The weather is a briefing and takes place for the final crew equipment loaded. It talks about fuel tank. It checks that. It has so many things to do before it will blast off. So it's good to know all those things. Exactly how long it really takes to get the rocket ship ready to go. Flying and landing the space shuttle. It talks about docking your spaceship, space dock challenges. It's got the mission control room where all the information comes in, and they program, and they can keep an eye on everything that's going on. It talks to you about your dress, and I bought my son a space suit, so he has an astronaut suit that he absolutely loves. It talks about International Space Station, grow your own space food, first aid skills, and just so much more. And it has some fun mazes to do. There's just lots of great things. Mission to Mars card. It has your stickers back here. there's just, this is an amazing book. And for science, it just talks about so many things and how we need to be fit and healthy foods we need to eat and training that we need to go through and staying strong in space and how you can build your muscles and just all about space. So all about orbits and build a rocket and just all the fun things you can do in this book. So this has been one of his favorites. That is for sure. The next book we have for Read Aloud is My Little Book of Space. And it goes through, and on the contents, it tells you the solar system, the sun and Mercury, Venus, Earth, the moon, Mars, all the different planets. It also talks about stars, and it talks about exploring space. It goes through the solar system. It lets you know what is closest to the sun. The solar system is made up of the sun and all the objects that circle or orbit around it. These include planets and their moons. And it just has some beautiful pictures illustrated. And I just like because it gives you so much great information. Mercury is a planet nearest to the sun. It is the smallest planet in the solar system. So much knowledge to gain. Like Earth, Mercury has hard surface, but it has no atmosphere. No wind ever blows there, and clouds never drift across the sky. It's so great to learn these things. I love seeing the layers of the Earth. And the moon. The moon is a rocky ball, about a quarter of the size of Earth. It circles the Earth once every 28 days. So this book is also just filled. Tells you about each one of the planets. It tells you whether they're a gas, what they're made of, and just, I love the illustrations. And there's so much knowledge in this book also. So this is just a beautiful book. Once again, this book is called My Little Book of Space. So that's another one we are enjoying. The one that I have last for my 4.5-year-old is One Giant Leap, the story of Neil Armstrong. This is a wonderful read-aloud book. And I found out some new things that I was not aware of prior to this. I did not realize how much in 1932 the 2-year-old Neil Armstrong loved to watch airplanes race. He would stand out there and watch those, and they would watch the planes for hours, him and his daddy. And he just loved airplanes. And he knew that someday he was going to fly. And it just talks as he gets older. It talks that it wasn't on a racing plane, but 3-motor passenger plane nicknamed the Tin Goose. The plane offered rides at a town airport. It could carry about a dozen people. Neil and his father climbed aboard and buckled themselves into the wicker seats. It's amazing how the seats have changed. He was so happy to be flying. Neil was fearless and Neil was delighted. And it just talks about Neil started making 10-cent airplane models and selling them. And he just loved everything about flying and being in the air. He kept growing, and as he grew his interest for flying hundreds of model airplanes, he was just growing and getting older, and the older he got, the more he wanted to fly. He dreamed again and again of hovering. And it just takes you through his whole life and what he did. His neighbor, Mr. Zent, had a homemade telescope mounted on the roof of his house, and he allowed visitors to spy the moon and stars. Neil looked and looked and looked. He was totally fascinated with it. And it just takes you all the way through his life, how he prepared and flying and getting ready and preparing himself to become an astronaut and all the things he needed to get trained in and when he would do it. And then it talks about Neil Armstrong. It talks about his walk on the moon. Wearing spacesuit and helmets, they opened the hatch of the spacecraft. Before them was the moon, magnificent and empty. Neil climbed down a ladder and hopped to the ground. Special cameras allowed 600 million people on Earth to watch and listen. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, Neil said into his microphone. And it was just a beautiful day. How exciting for everybody. And we just celebrated a 50th anniversary, and that's why we're doing a space unit. And we wanted to find out, and we have some other books about Neil Armstrong, but we are so happy for science to be focused on the solar system. Now, the next two books I'm going to share with you are for my daughter, who is an 8th grader. This also is an Usborne book, History of Science in 100 Pictures. Beautiful illustrations, loaded with information. It starts in ancient science. It goes through skull surgery. It talks about clay numbers. It talks about the first wheeled of vehicles. It talks about early farmers. It talks about so many different things. It talks about how they had the first doctors. And it just goes through iron workers, sky disc. On this one, it talks about the sky disc, the bronze disc found in Germany, inlaid with gold, with a gold sun, moon, and stars, dating from 3,600 years ago. It's the oldest known image of the sky. It may have been used for measuring the position of the sun, to calculate the dates of midsummer and midwinter. So that it's just packed full of wonderful, and it takes you on a timeline that takes you through different things in science that took place at different periods of time. It also is in the Middle Ages also. That's what we're learning in history. So I was glad that this was in here so we can learn some things about science and the Middle Ages. It just has so much, and it just keeps taking you through enlightenment. It just constantly is just giving you tons of things. First vaccinations and just all the things. Father of chemistry, discovery, marine, and it just electrical experiments. I'm sorry. Naming names, revolution. And it just continues to go on and on and on, and brings us to the present time, the atomic age. And it just continues, just the space age, which is nice because we're doing, like I said, the space unit. The first person in space, it talks about the first person that ever went to space, the first person that walked, which of course was Neil Armstrong. We just learned about that. The moon landing. It just goes through so many wonderful, beautiful things. And, you know, MRI scanning, it just, all the technology that scientists and science has. Digital error, and it just brings us all the way up to the time period of the global climate change and the black holes detected. Pluto becomes a dwarf, and just artificial life. And it's just, like I said, packed full of great information. And for my 8th grader, this is excellent. And we are just now starting to use it, so I'm not real familiar with it, but from what I've read, it's amazing so far. The last book that I'm going to share with you is utterly amazing science, packed with pop-ups, flaps, and incredible facts. And it just starts, and it has little flaps here you can pick up and see. The first one is the mighty atom. And it just goes through each thing, shapes and shifters. Mix up. Another one, boom. Kitchen and science. Chemical reactions. Material world. It says it would be crazy to make a bicycle out of chocolate or wear shoes made of ice. Clothes, cars, and machines and buildings are made from material that are carefully chosen to do certain jobs. It talks about cycling, and like I said, it has several pop-ups in here to read further, to gather more information. This is the space, field of force, and this pops up. So when you pull on it, it flips up like that. It's just a really amazing. It talks about gravity, field of force. What goes up must come down. And just so many fun things that it has. Talks about pulling power, magnets, magnetic forces, how machines work. Just some wonderful things. This kind of just, you take it down, bring it up. This shows you how it, pulling power and gears, endless energy. Just like all the little pop-up, it kind of shows you the layout of the house and where the power runs through and what it takes to have a house run smoothly. So another fantastic science book. See the light. Feel the heat. Stocking stuffer. So just so many great things in this book. So I've really been happy with all the choices that I've chosen. We have so many books. I could have chosen a whole lot more, but I really felt that these were ones that I wanted to share with you. I hope you've enjoyed these books. There's some great read alouds and packed full of amazing information. So if you have enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. And also, if you would like to see more videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll know when new ones are out. And I really appreciate you stopping in and sharing your time with me. And may God richly bless you in this day.